what, there's no way I can speak at an event and not have a brand or a product, because otherwise it's all for naught. You know, we weren't really big on the gram back then. My brand is 14 years old, and we're doing very well. We're the first African-American beauty brand to be housed at the MGM.
Absolutely, that's amazing.
We were being courted by Target before all the DEI
I remember
debacles.
that.
You remember? Yeah, so we're being courted by Target, Walmart, and some other stores to be in big box stores. And as going back to the original question, I was asked to speak at these events, and I wanted to be able to leave a part of who I was with those that were listening to me talk about beauty and enhancement and esteem and things like that. So we came up with a tagline before I even came out with the product. I wanted to actually have a purpose. I think that most people don't have a purpose attached. I wanted to be able to fill a void. I wanted women to be able to create a fast face with a Hollywood finish. I wanted women to be able to have an opportunity to live vicariously through my celebrity encounters. I wanted women to be able to afford to utilize the products that I was using without having to have a financial strain. So we came out with Wink and Pout. I wanted the name to be fun. I wanted the name to be, achievable to women. I didn't want them not to be able to say it. I wanted them to be able to pronounce it. I wanted them to be able to be a part of it and take hold of it. So when we came up with Wink and Pout, I was already saying, girl, let me put this on your wink. Let me put this on your pout. And so my girlfriend was like, that's your name. So we came up with the name, we came up with the tagline, and then we went to the conference, and I sold out. I literally sold out. I sold out. I called my web designer 14 years ago. I said, listen, we're going to put it on the website. If we sell out, I'm going to fly back to LA to the manufacturers, get the product. We were in the middle of my floor, legs wide open, sitting on the floor, and putting the stickers on the product. We weren't doing any kind of, all the things that we do now in manufacturing to make the product beautiful. We were just literally putting stickers on it.
That's real.
And we were selling out of it, and it was doing well. So I think that to answer your original question, part of just really knowing who your brand is or understanding the brand is understanding what you're coming to fix. What if you have a product? What am I just doing this because my girlfriend is doing it, or because I see it done on social media? Am I selling cupcakes? Am I doing am I doing wigs because everybody else is doing, or am I going to do something that's going to be a disruptor? Am I going to do something that's going to change the trajectory of this part of business? Am I going to do something that's going to make me stand out, just like Uber did with cabs? Am I going to do something that's going to change the whole world that we live in? And so that's what I wanted Wink and Pout to do. I wanted the everyday woman. The everyday girl is my girl. Absolutely. I mean, women are my jam. I'm like, I identify with the woman that works every day, who has a single mom, who is struggling to figure out and make ends meet, because I want you to be able to afford my product. Wink and Pout, y'all. Go look it up.
Yeah, absolutely. That was an outstanding answer, right? I think that answered the question that I asked pretty clearly. What do you guys think? And so, Sophia, how would you answer that question?
My mic on? Okay, I had to check my mic is on. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you all today. Happy Women's Month.
Happy Women's Month, for sure.
Yes, I definitely echo what Kim Lee says as far as focusing on what are you here to fix. Yes. As a PR strategist on my agency's SMTPR, I've had it for 10 years now. When I entered into PR, there was even something happening in our industry climate of what our publicist is going to be now. Because before, everyone conditioned their minds to believe a publicist only does media, or a publicist only does celebrity crisis, or whatever the case may be, however you felt. However, I think now I've learned that I've had to find my purpose based on how I'm serving those around me. Absolutely. And based on what I can actually contribute back to people that need the business. And so if that means that as a publicist, I also sharpen my skills with brand partnerships and media and events, really curtailing my services to match the actual industries we're in and what we're seeing in society, then that's what I do. But at the core of it, I know that as a publicist, I always want to have integrity. I always want to represent people of color. I never want to do work that I can't, thank God for the work he's given me and be ashamed of it.
And that's important.
Yes, so for me, purpose has really been rooted in the integrity and what I do to serve people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's a beautiful answer.
Thank
And
you.
so far, from Miss Kimley and you, Sophia, we've talked about evolution and making sure that we stay on point with purpose.
Yeah.
How do you feel, Walton? How do you feel?
I feel like I would just be repeating what these ladies said.
Right.
You're the solution, right?
Yes.
Your business is a solution. So you think about your core values, integrity, it could be quality. You think about those things, and then you think about your customer, right? In their mind, what is going to be easy for them to take in? That's what, for me, building purposefully.
Reaching them, right?
Yes, making sure that you understand what I'm saying, you can relate, and I'm still standing on my values.
No, I think that that's beautiful. So far, relatability, staying the course through your evolution, kind of just customizing what it is that you do for who it is that you serve. I think that's important, right? Yes, absolutely. So I have one more question, and then I'm going to ask you guys some individual questions that are tailored to kind of what it is that you do and who you are. But before I do that, I want to ask, how do you differentiate your brand in an industry that's constantly evolving? And I think we already kind of touched on that, but what would you say individually that would kind of hone in on that question alone? I'll start with Ms. Kimley again.
Repeat the question.
Sure.
I want to make sure I'm answering it.
Absolutely, no worries at all. So how do you differentiate your brand in an industry that's constantly evolving?
I think how you differentiate your brand is that you're open to growth. I keep young people around me. I'm not going to tell you all my age, but I'll give you a lip gloss if you can guess. But I've been in the industry for almost over 30 years. And what I found is that because the world is evolving, we must too evolve. And I think that once you understand what your brand purpose is, and you realize, and I wanted women to be able to, like I said, create a fast face with a Hollywood finish. Well, Hollywood is moving. Red carpets are different. So I have to make sure that my product is keeping up with the trends. So I go to Fashion Week. I, immerse myself in culture. I immerse myself with trends. I understand Pantone. Does anybody know what Pantone is? Yes. Pantone is the company that distinguishes what color you like for the year. So if you look it up on your phone right now, you got a homework assignment. Open your phones up. It's called Pantone, Pantone. I don't see anybody opening up their phones. I need you all to open up your phone because Mother is speaking. Open up your phones. There is a company called Pantone. Pantone determines the color of the year. So no matter what you drive, what you wear, what you do, everything surrounds itself around that color. And so what we do is we get the Pantone color of the year sometime around October, November. So at that point, I'm already planning for spring and summer. So I also keep up with Pantone as well. I already know what the runways...
That's a really good one.
Absolutely, because I need to know what colors are going to be what colors are going to flow and work with whatever fashion is on trend. So I try to stay on trend with Pantone. If you follow Pantone, if you're a fashion girl, or if you're a person that's in the beauty industry in any capacity or any industry where color matters, whether even the color of your hair. If you notice, everybody is now going red. Has everybody seen all of your favorite artists going red?
Yes.
Because it follows the model of Pantone color this year. So even though red is not the color, but it is a derivative of the Pantone color. So you have to educate yourself in your industry. If you educate yourself in your industry, you'll know industries are constantly growing. Every industry constantly evolving. So you got to stay on that train and never get off.
No, I think that that's a really good way to point out how you differentiate your brand, because it's those nuances, knowing those little things that maybe someone else might not pay attention to that will set you apart in a quick second. Sophia, how do you feel?
I address those things, it's going to sound very simple, but it's complex, by listening. And what I mean by that is I feel like when I started out, and even to this day, a lot of times as a publicist, I've had to deal with the negative things that people associate with my career. And I felt like I was faced with a decision. I could either shrink back and be bashful about what I do, or really hear the complaints people had. And so one of the biggest complaints was, oh, PR is not measurable, or you don't know how far you're actually getting with it, et cetera, et cetera. And knowing that one of my skill sets is being creative and logistical, I got really data-driven with my PR. And so when I'm pitching for clients, like I'm documenting it, I am researching.
KPIs.
Yes,
I love it.
I have KPIs, and Yes, PR is about storytelling. Yes, it's about relationship building, but I can track the relationship building.
That's a really big differentiator.
Yes,
I'd have to say. Being able to track the way that you build or maintain someone's image or relationships with others is really big. Walton, how do you feel about that?
I love
In
it.
your space, how would you differentiate?
So with Black Women Owned, we're a media company and we curate business news and original content, all with the mission to help increase the annual revenue of Black women owned businesses.
Love
so
that.
Black women are my jam.
Absolutely.
Now we do keep up with the trends, but we also keep up with our consumer. And so I know by the trends what's actually going to work for our people that we're looking for.
Ooh, that's that customization we talked about again.
Yes.
Perfect.
We have to look and realize, is this really going to hit for our timeline? Does this actually
Because everything
make
ain't
sense?
for everybody. So
It's
that's
not.
important to know that.
It's
That's
not.
a big differentiator.
Yeah, so it's big for us to make sure we are analyzing not just the data and the trends, but our target audience.
Absolutely, because guess what? You can do whatever you want, but if it's not hitting the target, it doesn't matter, okay? All right, so I'm gonna ask some questions as promised of you guys individually, and they're tailored specifically for you all, okay? So I'm gonna mix it up a bit, and I'm gonna start with Sofia. You're known for crafting campaigns that resonate with diverse audiences. What's the key to creating PR strategies that feel authentic and impactful?
Yes, so for me, the primary key is time and relevance. A lot of times, as creators, as people that are building businesses, or as creatives, you can get so passionate about what you're doing that you neglect what society and your industry is saying. And that's never a good idea because number one, you could be trying to promote something nobody cares about. Number two, you can be viewed as insensitive. So for me, I always take into account what is happening right now in society or what's happening in our industry or my client's industry to see how do we position the client. And so if people are really concerned about their jobs right now and you're a luxury brand, if you're not able to change the products, what are you able to word instead? Can you storytell to talk about how you make it?
That's big.
Exactly, like to be long lasting. Exactly. If you're a service business and maybe you're noticing that, you're based in the DMV and people are having layoffs and you're a hairdresser, what can you do? Like, let me treat my corporate clients. Let me start selling ready to go wigs. You have to kind of keep up with what's actually happening and not be afraid of it. And so I would say I'd start there with what's happening in this timing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that it's really important that the audience knows that tone deaf is not good. I think that that's what often consumers have an issue with. People feeling like, you want me to buy your stuff, but you don't know me.
Exactly.
And I think that that's important. And you being in PR, that's super important because it's really that's what you do.
Yeah, and it can be
Absolutely.
insensitive.
Yeah, absolutely. And insensitivity is not going to make anybody run to the store to go buy your product, work with you, promote you. So no, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask a question from Ms. Kim Lee. You've built a beauty brand that not only enhances outer beauty, but inspires inner confidence. How do you ensure that this message resonates in every product and campaign? And you gave us a couple gems already. So if you could just elaborate just a little.
So I have a cheat sheet. So I'm a pastor. So
Hold on a second. Wait a minute.
I'm a pastor.
A pastor and
my
a beauty
husband's a pastor,
guru.
and I'm a co-pastor of a church. I've been a minister for over 15 years. So I got into ministry because women were sitting in my chair asking me difficult questions. Why did he leave? Why did I get this incurable disease? How come I didn't get the job? And I'm literally making
You
up their
guys are
faces as
our
the tears,
therapists.
as the tears are falling from their eyes. And I remember asking my pastor, it's been longer than 15 years, it's been 20. And I remember asking my pastor at the time, Pastor, why am I getting asked these questions? Should I be taking like some therapy classes? Like, should I be taking some ministry therapy classes? People are asking me to pray for them and all kind of things. And he said, yeah, you're called to minister. So I realized that my ministry deals with marketplace, which means that it's beyond the pulpit. And so my integrity matters to people. The fruit that I bear matters to people, long suffering and love and gentleness and peace, things like that. So my fruit make a difference in the marketplace where people may never cross the line into a threshold of a church, but what they'll see is the God in me. They'll see, the Spirit in me.
That's big.
Right? And that makes a huge difference because if you never cross the line into a church, I was Whitney Houston's makeup artist, and Whitney could not go into a church because every time we walked into any place, it was pandemonium. So it was really difficult for her to ever experienced church in the full sense. But what she did is see God in me. right? And I realized, I was like, wow, that must be real. Like, Pastor must be telling the truth. Maybe
Yeah.
I am this person. But it's true. And so my clients, whether I'm doing their makeup or my customers, whether I'm selling it, I realize what it matters is that I have to have God's spirit. I don't have to be perfect, but I gotta have his spirit.
Absolutely.
I have to have his compassion. I have to be sensitive to, like you said, what is needed. I remember during pandemic selling certain things that, like you said, I had to change, the whole trajectory of how I was doing and selling makeup. I had to teach women how to do their makeup because they were sitting in front of Zooms.
Right.
So we working with what you got in your kit, girl. So if you can only get to the CVS, we're gonna work with that.
Right.
But it wasn't about me selling my product. I was selling them teachables
Yes.
and tutorials. So that was, to your point, how I actually curved and I don't know the right word to use that you all use, but that's how I shifted. Thank you. And so that's how I was able to shift and stay afloat. So I think if that answers your question, is just really just being authentically you. And I know people say it kind of is cliche-ish, but it's true. If you are used to servicing a fast-paced person who has, disposable cash, then if that's your girl, okay. Yeah. But I told y'all from the beginning, I serve the everyday woman. Mm-hmm. So whatever's going on every day, that she's not above, like she doesn't have $1 trillion in the bank, she's not a sheik, her husband's not a sheik or whatever, she's the everyday woman, then hey, you got me and I got you. So that's how I keep my business afloat.
I love it, and I want to touch on something. I think it's important as someone who is a consumer and someone who has been in spaces where I was the person selling something. What I will say is that it's very important when you feel like the person you are supporting with your money, your time, your attention is authentic. Authenticity matters. It's why some people are like, oh, well, a lot of people don't like her, but they can't make me hate her. Or you have some other people that are like, oh, well, no matter what, I'm riding her wagon. I like this person. Because it's authentic. And if you can be relatable to who it is that you are trying to, vie for attention, right? Then that's going to take you a long way. So that makes a lot of sense. And let me ask you. So with Black Woman Owned, you've created a community-driven brand that also has a strong business presence. How do you balance the two without losing the essence of either?
It's very important for Black Women Owned to know which platform works for what.
Right.
On LinkedIn, we have 30,000 followers. We're not necessarily putting up the same content on LinkedIn that we do on Instagram. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we do, but I know that a research case study about Black women in stress is going to go off on LinkedIn.
Yes.
On Instagram, you have to go to the link in bio, type in a text just to get the link. So understanding and knowing what platform works for us.
Your tools.
We have to
You gotta know your toolbox, okay.
We have to know. What works on TikTok, sometimes I don't know if it's gonna work anywhere else.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because TikTok is a whole different place, so I can imagine.
It is a different place, and there's so much controversy around it. So really making sure that I understand, the people who work with me understand that there is a time and place for everything.
Absolutely.
Not every platform is for every piece of content.
Absolutely.
But our website will always have everything.
Okay.
Okay.
We have something that is evergreen, no matter what. No, I think that makes a lot of sense. Knowing your tools is key. Yeah. Because you can have everything in your arsenal, but if you don't know how to use or apply, it's probably going to fall short. So I think that that's really important, knowing your tools. And that's going to also save you a lot of time.
Yes.
Time management.
Hello?
Because if you're fumbling around in the toolbox, you can't get the tools out fast enough, then something's probably going to, fall a little flat.
And I will say, too, knowing the type of content. So LinkedIn is great for literal links. Instagram is great for carousels. Understanding there are updates every day, but keeping that knowledge about the updates, about what this person is prioritizing on their platform is really important for us too. So not just what the content is, but the way that we format it is really important.
That's really important because like you said, there are updates every day, especially with social media. We're using social media to do most of our endeavors, right? Yeah. And so with that being said, though there are updates all the time, as long as you know in the back of your mind, that being that's a tool all in itself, knowing that there will be updates every day, not wondering or not knowing that you won't know to look for the updates or the changes or what they're saying is going to do what, right? Makes a lot of sense. So I'm going to move back into the general questions and ask you all, what are some common misconceptions about branding that you wish more people understood? And I want to start with Sofia, since you're in PR.
Ooh, the pressure. I'm going to be very honest.
Sure.
I think a common misconception is that it should be fun.
Oh, and it's not.
It's not fun. I think especially, and I know you are still beautiful, but I think especially for millennial generation, we think everything's supposed to be fun and you always want to do it and you always want to enjoy it. You actually may not. Like there's times you'll build a business and you loved it when you built it and now you're like, what am I doing? I have to reconfigure things. So
you start considering a pivot.
Exactly.
What are we going to do next?
So I would say a misconception would be that branding just happens. You know, it's like you have to be intentional. You have to research. You have to be willing to change, and also willing to take critique. For people who know what they're talking about, I don't mean just accept it from anyone, but being mindful of, okay, I've been having these like 2-hour-long videos on Instagram. Like I said, it's not working. Let me put this on LinkedIn. Let me put it on YouTube. Then we move around. But I think also the reality that branding changes. So if you get too married to something, you are in trouble. You won't see growth.
Detachment is key. In branding, I will say that even if it comes to revamping, changing color schemes, Pantone, like we talked about, you know, just fixing what your maybe monthly or yearly marketing would be. Because a brand is one thing, but as we move from place to place, moment to moment, you kind of have to still push that brand in a way that's relevant in the moment. So that makes a lot of sense. And so let me ask you, Walton, how do you feel?
Branding is a part of marketing.
It is.
I think that's the misconception, is that they're just like all together, all into. No, ma'am. No. We have to have our logo. We have to have our color scheme. We have to think about the color theory. Is this, I wear orange. Black Woman Owned has orange. It represents community. It represents warmth.
And I love that you have meanings behind what you choose, and that goes back to what we talked about purpose.
Yes. It all comes down to understanding that they're two different things, but they work together. So I'm going to have all my
sisters,
branding.
not twins.
Okay. I have my logo, but then my marketing goes and promotes that brand. It promotes the identity. It promotes my values, but they're not the same. And I think that sometimes it can be confusing because we're getting thrown a million things at all the time at a crazy rate. So that's my biggest thing. They're not the same, but they are close.
No, that makes a lot of sense, though, because I think I would have to agree with you on that. Branding is actually quite complicated in my personal perspective. It's not just we have a logo and these are the stickers that we're going to put. No, you need it's a whole psychological understanding. How do you feel, Kim?
So I think I might be a little bit an anomaly. I can't say that word.
It's a tongue twister.
I know the word, but I can never say it. But I think because I am my brand, because Wink and Pout by Kim Lee, so it is me. And I've always had, and this is where you have to be authentic and true to your brand. I've always had people in marketing, PR, and in my graphic artists always want to change that. So they'll say, we're going to remove you from the website. We're going to remove you from, and I'm like, no, you're not going to remove me because this is who I am. I am the brand. And it's crazy because for years, there weren't very many Pat McGraths, Kim Lees. My brand was even present before Pat McGrath. Now she has taken off, and I am going to as well. But when I started at MAC 30 years ago, I was an original MAC girl when MAC got here from Canada. And so it was only 4 stores in the country, and I was one of those artists that was working at the store. And I realized that most of the brands did not look like their person who invented the brand. So I was like, I have got to come up with a brand. So I wanted to authentically be myself, and I remember doing some ministerial work overseas, and I came back, and this is no offense to anybody who wears braids because I love braids, and one of my team members is over in the corner, I don't know where he went, and I came back and I was wearing dark braids. And he said, no, that's not part of the brand. You're blonde. This is your look. And I was like, no, but this, right? I mean, I've been giving back. I've been in the field. I've been working. I've been delivering babies. I've been doing all the things. And I came back with this whole different concept of how I wanted to look. And he was like, you just got your picture's done. We just did a whole campaign around how you look, and you got black dark braids. Like, he was like, no. And I don't, and again, it's not offensive to anyone, but it went against the brand scheme, the purpose,
100%.
all the things. Like, it wasn't the glamorous, but, you know, approachable Kim that people were used to. I was really kind of more indie. I was given a whole, you know, what's that look?
Bohemian?
Boho chic. It was given boho chic. And he was like, no, that's not what we're giving. Like, how long you gonna be in here? So you gotta actually have somebody in your team that recognizes, because artists, we like different things, you know? And I wanted to be boho chic for about a year or two. I was like, I just wanna wear flip-flops, and I wanna wear big oversized balloon hammer pants, and I wanna wear t-shirts ripped up, and I wanna wear my long dark braids down to my ankles. And he was like, no. That's not your look, so.
No, you know what?
It's a funny story, but it's a real one.
Very
it's a
funny
real one.
story, very funny story, but meaningful. And this is the reason why. This is why branding is such an important thing, because you have to choose, am I going to be the poster girl for this brand? Because then that means that even when you do have the urge to change, at the public eye, you still have to meet what you told them you will be. And I think that that's tricky, right? Because like she said, we change every day. So if you say, well, I'm gonna be the person, you might wake up and you might want to be boho chic, but you can't, because you've presented something else to your audience. And so they're like, wait, is that the same person? I don't identify with boho chic. I don't know if I want to buy her stuff no more. You know, people are very fickle in business. And so branding is complicated for that reason alone. Am I going to be the person? Am I going to make this a pseudo brand where it's not me, it's just something totally different? Or will it align with who I'm okay with being on a day-to-day basis? Makes a lot of sense. So I also want to ask a few questions about identity. But we talked about that. So let's just say, how do you balance being innovative with staying true to your core brand identity? So innovation and balancing staying true. Because as we talked about, you're moving, you're grooving, you're going here, you're going there, you're learning more information, but you still have a core purpose, you still have a core idea of the way that you want things to be. And so how do you stay there while also factoring in the information? Like you said, we're constantly getting information. So, should I pick, or does someone want to jump in?
I'll go.
Perfect.
Especially in social media and media, it's important for us to try things out. So we are testing constantly, right? So I think that's a way for us to make sure that we still have our values, we still have our brand promise, we have all these things, but as new things come, new trends come, you test them according to your target audience. I'm going to nail that home, because if we are not serving our target audience, we're just
Who
talking.
are we serving?
We're just talking out in the air, but testing those trends that you believe will work. And sometimes you can do a little test if you're not sure, but I do believe that really helps, because you're still maintaining all the knowledge and all the responsibility you have to your target audience while giving them a little bit of some new things.
A little razzle-dazzle, right? Absolutely. How do you feel, Sophia?
I feel like it's really important to research what it is that you're trying to possibly get involved in, just to make sure that you have a voice in it. I think sometimes, especially because of social media, you can feel the need to jump into every conversation, but it's like, what part of the conversation can I actually jump into?
And what's the purpose in jumping into it?
Exactly.
Right.
Because sometimes you might just agree with something that's already been done. And I'm not saying you shouldn't pursue something just because someone has done it. I mean, if you go to any beauty store,
you go to
or
any
grocery
bread
store,
aisle.
yes, you're going to see so many brands. I'm not telling people that. But as far as like, if there is something you want to put a microscope on yourself about, it does require some time for you to ask yourself those questions and to be really honest. Sometimes we try to jump into something because we're excited, but then when we experiment, we realize we don't like it. And I think being willing to experiment as well, I think that's something I learned a lot, like working more adjacent with corporate brands where they experiment a lot. Now, mind you, they have the budget to, but there's also like less costly ways to experiment, whether it's like polling or having like a focus group of women in your community, women and men, et cetera, mentors.
Absolutely.
Books. There's ways to kind of see, do I really want to take this leap? I think a lot of times we take the leap, even though it's okay to experiment, there's no like foreground, there's no background to it, and then we get
No
frustrated.
method to madness.
There's no method.
Absolutely.
So even experimenting can be a method, but it's
Yeah.
like set forth what you're trying to focus on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And how do you feel, Kim?
I just have something very quick to say.
Sure.
Individuality is cool, but isolation is not.
Yes.
And I think what pandemic did.
That's
and
big.
it's-
Hold on. I
it's-
want to let that simmer for a second.
You got, well, let's sit in that for a minute.
Yeah,
Especially
that's
for any
big.
creatives. It's important that you are around others that you create. This is why I actually have a love-hate relationship with the whole, what are they called? They're salon plazas. I think they're salon plaza. I didn't want to say the name because I didn't want to be, incriminating to anybody in particular. But that whole salon plaza model where you have your own individual room, your own individual booth. What I have heard from many artists and creatives, hairstylists, wig makers, barbers, is being in those individual spaces, it stifles their creativity. And so we are made to actually cohabitate. Creatives are. That's how we made.
Yeah.
The Bible says, in the beginning, God created. So everything we do as creatives starts with us.
Yes.
Everything we do, everything you think, you feel, you want to do is because of a creative.
Absolutely.
So there's no way that we should be separated. We should always be together. We should be in the forefront of every single industry. Why? Because in the beginning, God created.
Right.
And so because of that, I believe he sprinkles a little extra love on us. Because
Absolutely.
we are called to create. And when we're
Absolutely.
not in a space where we're creating, we're not doing what we were allocated to do. So it's important.
Yep.
It's important that we are around other creatives so our creative juices are flowing. I tell people all the time, get out the box, come up out that studio, come up out that basement, come up off your computer and get into a space where you can be around others creating so you can smell the creative air. Get around some water. Why? Because it's flowing. And I know it sounds crazy. I don't have all of the advice that they have, but what I do have is the practical part. And the practical part is, think about water. It's always moving. It's always flowing. Get around some water if you're creative. Go to the Chesapeake Bay, if you can't afford, go to the Potomac River, but watch the water move. And I promise you that creativeness will come through your being. You gotta be around things that's moving, because it makes you stagnant when you're sitting still.
Yes.
That's my
No.
2 cents.
Well, we done.
No, that was a big one. That was a big one.
Thank you.
That was awesome. You guys dropped so many gems. With that being said, we talked about a lot of things. We covered a lot of things. So I want to give some opportunity to the audience to ask you all questions. Is there a mic already out there? Awesome. So let's hear it. Can you introduce yourself and then you can present your question?
The mic.
Okay, sure, no problem. Raise your hand.
Hello.
Hi.
My name is Monica. I just wanted to ask a question because I'll say a newer business, so it's a one-man show. And I'm sure all of you guys started at that position. And I think even though I'm in the wellness space as far as a business, I feel like sometimes I sacrifice my personal wellness because I'm driving to put my face out there, be very present. So I just wanted to see if you guys had any advice back from when you guys were a one-man show and you were just starting out, and how to balance all of that while still keeping the brand going.
Great question.
Real quick, I really think you should barter your services. It's going to be really helpful to you. And when I say that, find some photographers that you can exchange your craft or your product with. Find someone maybe like her or whomever to help you with marketing and barter, because that's how I built my business, on bartering. I found models on campus that wanted to be a model. I found photographers in my department that wanted to shoot pictures, and we did a trade agreement. So, sir, when you take these pictures, models, when you stand in front of these pictures, we are not liable for anything. Photographer, you're going to release them all. Makeup artist, you're going to do your work. You're going to do your best work, and we're going to exchange the pictures, because that helps you to get your business to grow. So I don't know exactly in the wellness space that you're in, But I would suggest trying to barter, finding some new photographers that you can work with that are budding, finding somebody in the PR and marketing space that's budding, that you can trust, and y'all exchange some services. Probably on campuses, you'll be able to find someone that's that needs an internship, right? With a business. They work in the business department, they work in marketing and PR in the communications department. Go up to Howard University or Bowie State University and see if they're looking for somebody that they can do an internship, and let them intern with you, and while they're learning, you're learning too, and you're growing your business.
Yeah, great advice. Bars.
I would also say not being afraid to set your boundaries now. A lot of times we think we have to get somewhere before we have boundaries or we take care of ourselves. But if you don't set that now, when you do get to that place you're going, people won't know how to respect you. And so setting it, even if it's simple now, even if it's the first part of my morning, I'm doing XYZ for myself, or I'm cutting off work at 7 p.m., or whatever the case may be for you, not being afraid of doing that, even while you're an individual running the business, because those boundaries you take will also help you to be authentic with your audience. And they'll know that, oh, wow, I can trust her wellness advice because she practices what she preaches. Yes. And in this, I guess this culture, people are very big on authenticity. They do not want anything you're selling that you do not do. I think before there was a lot of smoke and mirrors in branding. Now you are your brand, especially now. And so not being afraid to set those boundaries and seeing what flows out of you from that.
I think that's solid.
Yeah, and I would say attend more events like these when you can. Don't stress yourself out trying to attend every single thing, but be intentional when you do walk in the room. Yes. So a good thing to do, let me tell y'all, I used to, I don't want to say stalk, but I knew a lot about a lot of people before I even walked in the room. I knew sometimes where they had lunch because they put it on their social media. So when you see these people that are talking, or when you see somebody that is coming to an event, look into it. Look and see if you can offer anything in a bartering type of way, or just connecting, period. We are in a space where we are connecting again. We have to continue to do that at a good, healthy pace.
Yes, race not a marathon is what Kim said. Absolutely.
I've been doing this 30 years.
Yeah.
And I'm still sustainable. I've been able to sustain my business 30 years later. I'm sorry. So sorry. I was just saying this, I didn't want to continue on. I just wanted to just throw it out, but I really felt her heart, and I just want her to know that this is a race and not a a marathon, not a race. So if you can, I think she's talking to somebody, it's a marathon. You're gonna take your time and pace yourself.
Absolutely.
I want you to just pace yourself. Don't feel like you got to do everything and be everywhere. Like I just said, I've been doing this 30 years, and there's some seasons where I've had to miss some opportunities. I was a caregiver for my dad for a year. And so my team was like, you're not going to the Grammys, you're not going to the American Music Awards, you're not doing all these things, Essence. And I was like, no, because my family matters.
Yeah.
I was on the road the first 20 years of my career, every day, all day, tours, movies. I did Avengers. If you go read my bio, it's people only dream about the stuff I've been blessed to do. But what I missed was my family. I missed every baby shower. I missed every wedding. I missed all the things. And I don't want you guys to do that, because I felt like there was a gap between me and my family for a very long time, right? And so I stayed home and took care of my dad. It's the greatest gig I've ever had, until he closed his eyes and went to glory. And I left, when he left this earth, he left, and I felt full. I felt like I had no regrets, because I made up for that time I wasn't around, just taking care of him. So, yeah, I want you to make sure you pace yourself. It's going to be okay.
Yeah,
and I'm back. Look,
yeah. And you back in action, right? Absolutely. So with those answers, we're open for more questions. Who else has a question? I see some hands over here. If we can get the mic over there, that would be lovely.
Hey, gorgeous gals.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Nia, and my question is, what advice could you give someone that wants to break into photography and fashion merchandising, but they feel a little late? Originally, I wanted to do that, but then I went into education, and I made it my whole resume and CV, so I would like some advice.
So something actually comes to mind for me that immediately I want to just share really quick because I know that the panelists have expertise. But what I will say is that it's impossible for you to be late. You are always on time for everything that is for you. And so it doesn't matter the twists or turns. You will always be going in the right direction. You can't lose. Who wants to answer?
I have a simple one, is to just start.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we're thinking about all the planning and all the things that we have to do instead of doing it or practicing. So I would say start. If you are
Just do it,
Yeah, just
Nike.
do it. If you were in education, I think that there is some, just for your portfolio's sake, you have some colleagues where you can get a headshot and maybe they decide to put a fashionable twist on it. There are people that you know right now that can build your portfolio in a way that you might not even be thinking about.
Because skills are transferable, right?
Completely transferable. And so I know you say, I'm not in fashion. I know a little bit about fashion, a lot of it.
Just a little bit.
But I would say definitely try to start and use your network that you have now to build in a way that will be able to transfer into fashion. Use what you have.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you feel, Sofia?
Yeah, I would say I still do this to this day, but when I started working out in fashion, I initially wanted to be a journalist and then went the PR route. And a lot of what I did was just reach out to people via Instagram. So maybe finding people that you admire that are way ahead of you and even people who are your peers and saying like, hey, I would love to assist you on a shoot. This is my interest. This is why I'm interested. Being honest about where you are, that you've never done it before, but you have this interest and you're willing to work and learn. You would be surprised how many people say yes to you, because I've worked on many fashion shoots, many beauty shoots, and we always need hands. And you can even write me. My page is SMTPR on Instagram, and I'm really happy to connect you with anyone.
That's awesome. I just want to say thank you so much for your engagement, asking the questions that you've asked, and I hope that you've enjoyed this panel. We're going to go ahead and wrap up this portion, but we will be back with another panel of lovely ladies to present to you guys, okay? Awesome. So are you guys feeling good? Awesome. I want you guys to be able to reach the panelists. So I'm not sure what the best course of action is, but I know you guys will still be here, right? So maybe, ladies, if you had the opportunity, check in with the lovely panelists so that you can get their contacts, social medias, and all the rest of that jazz, okay? And we'll see you in just a bit.